There's another super chat came in from Mohan. Here, great show, guys. $13.99. Thank you so much. In a 5-2-4 setup, where exactly do I place the side surround speakers? At ear level or above? And should they be beside MLP or slightly behind?
Oh, Reverend Slim's in the house. We better give the right answer.
I would say this. If it's 5-2-4 and you're not adding surround backs, go slightly behind. If you're listening to Atmos and you have them like I do upstairs, the sound that's coming out of them that should be behind me is now to the sides of me. So if you want a more accurate representation of what's happening in the surround channels, I'd say put them slightly behind like Michael has. What do you say? Like 110?
Probably about 110.
Yeah. And
basically they're in between my front row and my rear row. So they're right in between there.
Okay. And I personally, I don't like the idea of an elevated surround sound stage. I like everything at ear level to be at ear level. Obviously, if you have 2 rows of seating, that's not possible.
That's what I was going to say. If you get 2 rows, and especially if you get 7 speakers, you pretty much have to elevate that rear, at least the rear one, to be able to get access to both that front and rear seat, especially if that rear seat's on a riser like I've got in my theater room.
Yeah.
So it's confusing because there are multiple reasons. Like Michael, you're talking about having elevated seats behind you. It needs to be able to pass over the head.
Yeah, you don't want to at the back of that seat. That would be pointless for the people in front.
Right. That's what Slim is saying. Seat backs that might
so that's one consideration, right? One consideration. But I think why it's confusing is because the old school 5.1, no Atmos, right? Mm-hmm. No height.
It used to be like way back in the back.
Right. So and like 2 feet above
and elevated.
Yeah. Well, all right. So thinking about this, my theater is probably 15 years old. Mm-hmm. Is when I built it or set it up. My side surrounds are 2 to 3 feet. That's what our Dolby suggested back then because they wanted elevated a little bit.
Yeah.
Then when Atmos comes, it's like, okay, now you want to separate that bed layer from the height. And it's harder for me to do that just because if I lower those side surrounds, when somebody walks into my theater room, they're going to smack it right dead in the face. So I've got to kind of leave mine up there. So,
yeah, I guess it's just interesting that, it's confusing, I guess. It's confusing going from 5.1 because the recommendation was, above, right? 2 feet above. Mm-hmm. I think similar location though. But when you go to Atmos,
back in the 5.1, they were almost think of 45-degree angle behind you. Remember, because we almost put them in the corners, looking towards the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you look at the original 5.1 before Dolby, before any of that, you would have the front 3 up front, and then the back ones were kind of like this, angled towards that main listening position.
Yeah.
And they may actually still have them. I'll tell you what, while y'all do that, I'll just look it up real quick.
Well, that's the 5.1. I think it's an ITU standard, ITU 5.1. It shows you the angles there.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Yeah, so here's a 5 point. Okay, so it's saying 110 to 120. But see that, again, that's the newer layout. I want to see a really old.
Pretty old, though. I think it's always been this 110 was the recommendation. I guess the difference, here's where it gets confusing. When you talk about Atmos, it's no longer 2 feet above, right? They want it about ear level with some clearance for whatever is behind you, right? I think that's the recommendation. So that has changed. Also, it changes when you go from a 5.1 point whatever to a 7.1, because when you move to 7.1, now they allow it to be at 90 degrees. Mm-hmm. Right? Sides, within the spec for it to be more to the sides, which I still don't love because, you can really hear that sound.
Yeah,
I still recommend it behind you, but you can, according to Dolby spec. But that's only when you have 7.1. If you have 5.1, it doesn't say that you should do that. So,
this is
pictures here.
Yes, but just look at the angle of those back speakers. That's kind of more what I was thinking of, originally. Mm-hmm. They were way back in the kind of your corners of your room. Right. They were angled at the main listening position. And even back in the day, we'd have them. They would even say, "Hey, put them up in the corners and angle them down," kind of thing. And
it looks like 135 right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's way past 110.
Yeah.
So that's that was kind of what I was thinking back in the day. That's the way we would do it. But now Dolby's saying like 90 to 110 is a good range there.
He said we should invite Reverend Slim. We've had him call in.
He called in.
He needs to be on the show, man. Be on the video, baby.
Yeah.
Bring him on.
Now, if you'd like to join us in the after show, make sure to become a patron. It would be patreon.com/daily HiFi, and you get to video chat, kind of like this with us after the show. It's pretty awesome. You should check it out.